I'm Jennifer Walsh. I'm 29, and 3 weeks ago, I lost everything. The child I desperately awaited. While my parents chose the golf course over my marriage and their future grandchildren. Blood. There was too much of it. Not the scant warning spots they whisper about in offices, but a flood. A real, terrifying flood, soaking through fabric, sheets, and my consciousness in a matter of seconds. 2 a.m, 12 weeks, the very milestone after which I dared to believe there was a human living in my belly. Derek, my husband, was in Boston at a major presentation. The day before, he'd kissed my still flat stomach and promised to be back by Friday. And now it was only Wednesday night, and the silence broken by the pounding of my heart in my ears. I dialed the emergency line. My fingers darted across the keys, and somewhere down the hallway, my salvation and my bane, my 18-month-old twins, Mason and Madison, snored softly. "Jennifer, you need to get to the hospital immediately." Dr. Chin's voice was a steel cable stretched across the abyss of my peace. "Can someone take you?" "My husband is out of town. I'll call my parents." I dialed my mother. 6 long rings. "Jennifer, it's 2 a.m. What happened?" Her voice was thick with sleep. "Mom, I'm bleeding. Heavy. I'm pregnant. I was pregnant. I need to go to the hospital. Please come stay with the twins." Silence. Rustling. My father's voice in the background. "Who's there?" "Are you sure it's serious?" Mom finally said. "You know how dramatic I am when it comes to health matters." I looked at my hand, sticky and red. "Mom, I'm losing the baby. I need emergency surgery, please." "Jen, we're in Palm Springs, at Tyler's tournament. He's competing for the prize. We can't just rush off." The world tilted. "You're 3 hours away. We've been planning this for months. It's really important for your brother." "Mom, I'm having a miscarriage." My father droned on. "Jennifer, we spent $2,000 over the weekend. The hotel, the deposits. Can't we call Derek's parents?" "They're in Florida. It's an 8-hour flight." "Well, get a nanny. You have to think about these things." "I didn't plan on having a miscarriage at 2 a.m, my whisper turned hoarse. "You always exaggerate," Mom sighed. "Lie down, put your feet up. You'll feel better in the morning. You can go to the clinic." But I felt my life ebbing away, along with this dark warmth. "I can't wait until morning. I might bleed to death." "Don't talk nonsense. Women go through this all the time." A pause. "Okay, we'll try to leave early tomorrow, but Dad already has breakfast booked for the tournament, and Tyler has an 8-minute wait. Maybe by noon." "By noon? Mom, I need to go now." "And we're at your brother's important event. The world doesn't revolve around you, Jennifer." Something clicked. Not in my heart. Somewhere higher up, cold and clear. "You're right," I said quietly. "It doesn't revolve. It never did." The phone fell onto the bloody tiles. The bleeding intensified. I dialed 911. The paramedics arrived 8 minutes later. 2 women, firm and kind. They draped me with sheets and asked short questions. "Are you having contractions?" "Yes, stronger." "Is someone with you?" "Twins. Sleeping." "Is someone coming?" The tears finally started. "No, my husband's away. My parents at my brother's golf tournament. They don't want to leave." The second paramedic, the one who had been setting up the IV, had a stony expression. "Seriously? Golf? For your daughter's emergency?" I could only nod. Then I remembered. A card from my mother-in-law. Emergency Childcare Solutions in Crisis Situations. I read off the number. "We need help. Now. Miscarriage. The twins are sleeping." The woman on the other end, Patricia, spoke calmly and quickly. "We'll send 2 specialists in 25 minutes, both pediatric nurses. Emergency rate is 60 per hour with a 6-hour minimum." Yeah, whatever. Send them." "Breathe, Jennifer. They'll care for your children as if they were their own, and you focus on yourself." As they wheeled me out of the bedroom, past the stains on the floor, I did what I'd been doing automatically for 6 years straight. I opened my bank app. With trembling, dirty fingers. Automatic transfer. $3,200 on the 15th of every month to my parents' account. It all started when my father's business failed, and my brother Tyler needed to pay for college. Just for a few months, they said. 6 years later, the business had stabilized enough to support golf tournaments in Palm Springs. Tyler was earning a 6-figure salary, and I kept paying, because that's what good daughters do. $3,200 a month, 12 months, 6 years, $230,400. Almost $250,000 to the parents who couldn't make the 3-hour drive. I turned off autopay. I canceled that old slavish transfer. And then, still in the ambulance, at traffic lights, through the pain in my eyes from the screen, I set up a new one. The same amount, $3,200. Only now it wasn't going into the bottomless pit of parental selfishness, but into the future, into Mason and Madison's college account, for something real. The paramedic squeezed my hand. "You're doing great. Hang in there." But I wasn't hanging on. I was floating on an icy, clear river. I didn't think about the pain, the emptiness inside, the child who was no longer there. I thought about how they chose between me and the 18th hole. How they called me hysterical while I drowned in my own blood. How I, all these years, dutifully paid for their right to betray me. Every month, like clockwork. The emergency room was a hell of white light and harsh sounds. Dr. Chin was already waiting in a surgical gown, and her face was the most honest I'd seen all night. "Jennifer, emergency D&C, you're hemorrhaging. We're making every effort to save you." "And the child?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Her eyes softened, but her voice remained firm. "There's no heartbeat. Your body can't cope. We need to act now." I nodded. Nothing moved inside. There was already a desert there. "Do it." General anesthesia. Wake up in a hospital room. 20 minutes. "The twins. I need to call." "Call later. Right now, it's all yours." At that moment, the phone rang. Derek. "Baby, I got your texts. Oh my God. I'm at the airport, leaving now. I'll be there in 4 hours. The twins." "Your mom's already on the plane. She'll be there in 6. She has all the contacts. She'll take care of everything." My voice was surprisingly calm. "My mom? Flying from Florida?" "Of course she is. That's what family does." A lump formed in my throat. Those words. A sharp exhalation came over the line. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault. My parents—" I didn't finish. "They're at Tyler's tournament. They can't leave." I was simply stating a fact. Silence. And then Derek's voice, always so soft, became low and sharp as a blade. "They chose golf instead of you." "Yes." "Jen, I swear," he faltered. "You said about the transfers. Did you cancel?" "Canceled. The money is now going to the twins' account." Another pause. I heard him mentally calculating. 6 years. 230,000. God. And they haven't even arrived. Yes. The anesthesiologist was already holding out the mask. "Here we go." "I have to go. I love you." "Me too. I'll be with you. And Jen, it's over with your parents. Can you hear me? Everything." The world faded into whiteout. I emerged from it to the sound of muffled but furious voices outside the door. 2 women. One was my mother-in-law, Patricia. The other was my mother. "This is disgusting. Your daughter is in a hospital bed and you're talking about money." "You don't understand the context, Patricia." My mother's voice, shrill and defensive. "I understand she didn't care about the context when she called you at 2 a.m, bleeding out, and you were at a tournament. We're 3 hours away. What could we do?" "Leave, like I did, like anyone with a heart would." I tried to sit up. The nurse giving me the injection gently but firmly grabbed my shoulder. "Lie down. You're just out of anesthesia. Don't worry, Patricia's in charge." "Who's there?" I whispered. "Your mother-in-law. She rushed here as soon as she boarded the first plane. And these two," she nodded toward the door, "just arrived now." And the first thing they started figuring out was who would pay for the nanny's services. Patricia's voice grew louder in the hallway. She was like a tornado in the guise of a frail pensioner. "Don't you have the right? I have every right. You're not parents. You're dependents. Do you want proof? Jennifer's bank statements. $3,200 a month. 6 years. Do you know what you lived on? On the money of your daughter, who's now been abandoned." The silence behind the door was thick as pitch. "This money, we thought it was a gift," muttered her father's voice, pitiful and unconvincing. "A gift? You thought this was a bonus for your parenting skills? She paid you for your love, and you didn't even provide it." "We're here now," her mother shrieked. "You're half a day late. Her grandchildren woke up with strange aunts. They cut her stomach without a single family member nearby because you didn't want to ruin your son's game." The nurse could barely contain her smile. "Your mother-in-law is a real wreck. She's been on duty since this morning. She signed all the paperwork, talked to the doctors, gave instructions to the nannies, and," she lowered her voice, "she officially forbade your parents from visiting you until you give her permission. She's your representative." Footsteps. Patricia entered the room. Her silver hair was escaping from its bun, 2 bright spots on her cheeks. But when she saw me, her face melted. She quickly approached and took my hand in her warm, strong ones. "You're awake, darling. How are you?" "Empty," I breathed out. I know, baby." She ran her fingers through my hair. "It's all over. You'll be fine physically. You need time and rest." The kids, Rose and Michelle, are angels. Mason's already asking Mom, but they're fed, washed, and playing. I'm in touch with them every hour. She glanced at the door, and her gaze grew steely again. "Don't worry. No one will bother you here. Derek will be here in an hour and a half. He'll go straight home and change the girls. And I'm not going anywhere." "You flew in from Florida," I whispered, looking at Patricia. Her presence here was so incredible, so undeserved. "You abandoned everything." "Of course you did. You're my daughter," she said simply, adjusting my pillow. "And," a steely sparkle flickered in her eyes, "I've been waiting for years for a legitimate reason to tell your parents everything I think about them. Derek held me back, saying, 'Don't, Mom,' but now all the cards are on the table." I overheard some of their conversation. "Excellent. Let them know their quiet, generous daughter has a voice, or rather, has me." She sank into a chair, her expression serious. "Jennifer, I need to tell you something. Derek told me about the money, about $230,000. I turned to the wall, to the white, soulless hospital tiles. I know, it was stupid, naive. "Stop," her voice made me turn around. "It wasn't stupid. It was enormous. It was generous to the point of pain, and it showed me your heart. You are the kind of person who gives every last drop to those she loves. But my darling," she leaned forward, "you gave to those who took it for granted, who took without a second thought, and never looked back to see if you were empty yourself." "They're my parents," I countered weakly, no longer believing the power of those words. "They're selfish, and I say this as a mother who taught her son. Family is about keeping each other afloat, not dragging one down so the rest can swim." At that moment, the door swung open. Derek burst in a rumpled travel suit with a wild gaze and a hint of stubble. "Jen," it wasn't a word, but a groan. He fell to his knees by the bed, clasping my hands, pressing them to his face. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I should have been here." "You're here now," I said, feeling his trembling contagiously. "That's the main thing." He looked up at me, his eyes so full of anguish that I wanted to cover them with my hands. "Mom told me everything. That the operation, that you'll be okay now." He swallowed the lump in his throat. "About the baby. I know. We'll get through it later. We'll get through it all. But right now, I'm just grateful that you're breathing. Patricia stood quietly. I'll leave you. Derek, I'm going home and changing the girls. You stay. Be with her. Mom. He stood and hugged her, pressing his forehead to her temple. Thank you. I don't know what we'd do without you. That's what I'm a mother for, she patted his cheek. A real one. Her gaze darted to the door again, and there was so much silent disdain in that look that it became clear. My parents were still somewhere out there, in the hallway, waiting miserably, confusedly. When she left, Derek sat on the edge of the bed, still holding my hands. His palms were hot and clammy. I talked to them, to yours, before Mom scolded them. And Dad asked if you were alive. Mother, can I visit you despite the unpleasant incident with Patricia? He took a deep, ragged breath. And then your father asked if you deliberately canceled the transfer or if it was a glitch in the system. I closed my eyes. Of course, the center of the universe is their financial flow. Jen, I exploded. I told him his daughter just got out of surgery and all he cared about was money. That you fed them for 6 years while raising the twins yourself. That they didn't deserve a cent or a second of your attention. What did he say? That I was disrespectful. That they raised you and deserved your support. That it was a gift. A gift, I repeated, my mouth tasting ashen. That they didn't even notice. Exactly. And then your mother said something that made me clench my fists to keep from... He fell silent. Speak. She said, Jennifer has always been overly emotional. She'll come to her senses when she calms down. We're still her parents. Something clicked inside me. Not pain, not anger. An icy, final calm. Silence after a long storm. Derek, I need you to do something. Anything. Throw them out. Tell them to leave. That I don't want to see them. That if I decide to talk, I'll call myself. But for now, let them go. Are you sure? His eyes didn't betray uncertainty, but concern. He was checking to see if I was broken by this decision. I've never been so sure in my life. He kissed my forehead, a gesture of promise, blessing, and protection. Understood. And I heard it. His voice in the hallway, low and brooking no argument. You need to go. Right now. Jennifer doesn't want to see you. The mother's voice, shrill. This is absurd. We are her parents. You stopped being her parents the second you chose the golf course over her. Derek, don't be dramatic. Your mother set you up. My mother opened my eyes. You always just closed them. The father's voice, trying to sound authoritative. Listen up, man. No, you listen up. She almost died. She lost her child. You were needed, but you weren't there. You sucked money out of her for 6 years without giving anything in return. That's it. It's over. That money was her voluntary help to the family. Voluntary, which you abused. This help will no longer be given. It will now go to your grandchildren, for their future, which you don't seem to care about. Silence. Then my mother's icy, hissing voice. She'll regret it. Blood is thicker than water. She can't just erase us. We'll see, Derek snapped. Now, leave, or I'll call security and have you escorted out. Footsteps. Distant. The quick clicking of my mother's heels and my father's heavy tread. Derek returned. His face was pale with suppressed rage. Gone. Thank you. Jen, I have to confess. I knew about the money. Not the amount, but I knew you were helping them, and I should have stopped it. I should have protected you from them. I'm your husband. It's my job to see you get hurt and stop it, even if it's the people who are supposed to protect you who are hurting you. You couldn't have known everything. I should have. I should have seen how they use you, how they call you hysterical to silence your truth. I slept while you paid for their love that never was. I pulled him close, to my emptiness, to my pain. You're protecting me now. That's the only thing that matters. And we held each other in the sterile hospital silence while I cried. Not just for the tiny, failed future inside me, but also for the ghost parents I never had, and for that eternal girl inside me who finally stopped knocking on the locked door. 3 days later, I was home. Our house smelled of Patricia's soup and baby shampoo. She had taken up residence in the guest room, transforming chaos into a cozy, functioning system. Mason and Madison didn't understand Mom's sadness, but they adored Grandma Pat, who bounced them on her hip and sang old songs. Derek took a week off. His major Boston presentation had landed him a contract, but he told his boss one thing: family first, always. My parents called 17 times. I didn't answer once. On the 4th day, when the pain had become a dull background noise and the house smelled of cinnamon from Patricia's buns, a letter arrived. A curly-Q envelope in Mom's handwriting, sickeningly familiar. My heart didn't flinch. I opened it with a letter opener, as if diffusing a bomb. Jennifer, I don't understand why you're doing this. From the very first line, I was overcome with feigned helplessness. They always started with that. With my inexplicable, irrational cruelty. We're your parents. We love you. We've always been there for you. A lie. So brazen and smooth that I could practically taste iron in my mouth. Your father and I are hurt and confused by your behavior. We drove from Palm Springs 3 hours later, as soon as we could. As soon as we could. After breakfast. After the game. After we made sure Tyler's trophy was in our pocket. The money situation is a misunderstanding. We thought you were happy to help. We never asked you to send it. You did it yourself. There it is. Complete denial. They are simply innocent victims of my generosity. We need you to reinstate the monthly payments. We made financial decisions based on this income. Without it, we will have to make serious sacrifices. Serious sacrifices. Like my surgery on an empty stomach at 2 a.m. Please stop listening to Derek's mother. She's always been jealous of our relationship. She's turning you against your own family. We love you. Call us. I read it twice. The first time through a haze of rage. The second time through an icy, crystal clear calm. Then I picked up a notepad and pen and wrote. For the first time in my life, without making excuses, without softening, without seeking their approval. Mom and Dad, you're right about one thing. I sent the money myself. You never extended your hand and said give. You simply spouted off phrases about difficulties, and I, like a trained dog, rushed to resolve them. For 6 years straight. But you're wrong about everything else. You weren't there when your daughter, bleeding and fainting from fear, called you in the middle of the night. You were on the 18th hole. You made a choice. And it wasn't me. You didn't come as soon as you could. You came when the worst had already happened without you. When a stranger had to fly across the country to hold my hand. When your grandchildren experienced the kindness of strangers because their grandparents were busy. Money isn't a misunderstanding. It was a system. You understood it perfectly. You just never thanked me, never asked if I was struggling, never said enough. You took it, silently, as a given. Now you'll live on your own income, like adults. Just like I had to do at 23 when I was already supporting you and you were buying Tyler a new car. Patricia isn't trying to set me up. She simply voiced what had been screaming inside me for years. You're users. Love for you is a currency I pay. I've had enough. The money is gone. Your lifetime subscription to my life is canceled. Don't contact me until you're ready for one thing. Full responsibility. No buts. No, it's your own fault. No, we're parents. Just a pure, bitter confession. Jennifer. I sent the letter without a second to hesitate. My hand didn't shake. Patricia found me in the kitchen. I was standing by the window, gripping the sink until my knuckles turned white. Darling, what happened? I just burned the last bridge. I wrote to them. I told them everything. She hugged me, tightly, like a mother, the back of my head on her shoulder. I'm proud of you. I thought I'd cry, feel like a traitor, but nothing. Emptiness. What are you feeling? Name it. I thought. I listened to myself, to this new, unfamiliar silence inside. Relief. It's as if I've been carrying a sack of stones on my back for years, and now I've straightened up. Because you carried it all. Their debts, their expectations, their hatred disguised as love. You're allowed to shed that burden. What if it's forever? What if they never understand? Then you didn't lose your family, Jennifer. You lost your captors, and that's not a loss. It's a release. 2 weeks later, when the scar on my soul was beginning to heal, the phone rang. Tyler. The brother's voice I only heard on birthdays and Christmases. Jen, hi, it's me. Hi, Tyler. The voice was even, without expectation. Mom, she told me everything about the miscarriage. I'm sorry. It sucks. Thank you, I said, waiting for the but. It didn't take long. But Jen, you can't do this, okay? They're a complete mess. Dad says maybe we should sell the house. Mom's in tears. Sell the house, I asked, without a hint of sympathy. Well, the mortgage is $2,500, and with their pensions, they budgeted for the money you sent. I laughed, sharply, bitterly. Oh my God, they budgeted around their daughter's money? 6 years, Tyler, $230,000, and not a single thank you, not a single how are you? The silence on the phone was telling. That much? I wasn't aware. Of course I wasn't aware. They bragged about every penny they invested in you, the education, the car, the condo, but they kept quiet about my money. Convenient, huh? Jen, when you called, I didn't know it was that serious. Mom said you were hysterical for no reason, like always. Like always, I repeated, every letter sharp. I had emergency surgery, Tyler. I could have died, and they were at your tournament. They chose your $50,000 prize over my life. I didn't know, he muttered, and for the first time his voice sounded not defensive, but confused. That's the thing, Tyler. You never told the whole truth, only the one where I'm the crazy, ungrateful daughter. But now it's your turn. You make a 6-figure salary. You live in the condo they bought you. Maybe now it's your turn to be a good kid and pay for their lifestyle? I have my own obligations, I said, immediately defensive. I had them too, 2 babies to raise, but somehow I managed to give them 1/3 of my salary. I think you can handle it. Jen, don't be like this. I have to go. Mason's calling. Goodbye, Tyler. I hung up. Derek stood in the doorway, a cup of tea in his hands. Tyler, he wants you to go back to the way things were. Tyler wants his life to be left alone, like all of them. He came over, hugged me from behind, and rested his chin on the top of my head. I'm sorry they're like this. I put my hand on his, snuggled into his warmth. I have family. They're here. That's enough. A month after the miscarriage, an official letter arrived. Not my mother's plaintive lines, but a cold form from a law firm. My parents were suing me for financial abandonment, for breach of an oral agreement. I read the words out loud, and they hung in the air in the kitchen, absurd and insulting. Derek dropped his spoon. What? They're suing me for stopping their support, I said, and a strange, almost hysterical laugh escaped my throat. It wasn't laughter anymore, but something desperate. I immediately called Marcus, Derek's lawyer. His calm, analytical voice was a balm for this new wound. Jennifer, this is ridiculous, he said after I read him the letter. Financial leave exists for minor children, or in some cases, spouses. You're an adult, independent daughter. They can't prove any verbal agreement. Did you sign anything? Was there a specific agreement? No, I just started sending, and they just accepted. Then it's a handout, and the handout can be stopped at any time. But one thing is clear, they're trying to intimidate you, to force you back into the pen. What should we do? I asked, my voice laced with not childish helplessness, but cold determination. We're giving a firm response. We're laying out the facts, and if you want, we can counterattack. File a counterclaim for emotional distress. based on their refusal to assist in a medical emergency. Will that work? I doubt it, but it will send a message that you're not a sheep for shearing, that you have teeth. Do it, I said, without a shadow of a doubt. Marcus drafted a response that was a masterpiece of legal destruction. He didn't just deny the lawsuit, he documented it. The timeline, the amounts, the 2 a.m. call, the refusal to come, Patricia's arrival, everything. Their lawyer withdrew the lawsuit a week later. But most importantly, this document, in legitimate official language, recorded the monstrosity of their actions, refusing to help their daughter, parasitizing on her money, blackmail after the loss of their child. Their lawyer personally called Marcus. My clients haven't fully informed me. Please convey my apologies to Ms. Walsh. 3 months after the miscarriage, Derek and I went to see a therapist. Dr. Reeves, a quiet-voiced woman with watchful eyes, listened to the entire bloody saga over 2 sessions. Jennifer, she said at the 3rd meeting, let's do an exercise. Make a list. Everything you've given them over the years, not just money. I picked up a notepad. I traced the pen across the paper as if opening a vein, but it wasn't blood that flowed. It was the truth. Money, $230,400. Time. Endless hours helping with their daily lives, with paperwork, with their problems. Emotional resources. Being a shoulder to cry on, a therapist, a sounding board for emotional labels. Grandchildren, Mason and Madison, whom they hardly saw. Forgiveness. For every forgotten date, every dismissive word, every humiliation. Indulgence. For calling me hysterical, for putting my needs below the golf course. And now, Dr. Reeves said softly, what did they give you over the last 6 years? The silence in the office became loud. I frantically searched my memory, like a beggar in an empty purse. They came to the twins' discharge for 2 hours. They gave me $50 for my university graduation, which I paid for myself. For 6 years, $250,000, tons of emotional labor. You got a symbolic presence and $50, she concluded, and it sounded like a death sentence. Something collapsed inside me. Not painfully, like an old rotten wall that had finally been torn down. My entire adult life, I've been in one-sided relationships. Yes, and it probably started much earlier. You just didn't see the magnitude. Why? Why did I keep going? Because you hoped that if you gave enough, they would finally see you, love you properly. But some people, Jennifer, are only takers. Their hole is insatiable, and the problem isn't how much you give. The problem is that they have nothing to give in return. Derek squeezed my hand. His palm was an anchor. They'll likely never understand why you cut off contact, Dr. Rees continued. In their narrative, they're always the victim, and you're the ungrateful villain. And you'll have to live with that. How? I whispered. By accepting that their worldview has no bearing on your worth. Building your life with those who truly see you, letting go of the dream of the parents you never had, and mourning them to make room for the real thing. 6 months after the miscarriage, I saw 2 lines. The whole world shrank to that tiny window. We didn't tell anyone. An unshakable fear lived within me every day, every kick, every strange symptom, and I froze, listening to the silence inside, waiting for the nightmare to repeat itself. But at 20 weeks, on the ultrasound screen, a tiny, strong heartbeat was beating. A girl. Healthy. Perfect. Patricia cried when we told her. Another granddaughter. I'll be there from the very beginning. A real grandmother. That's what you were to Mace and Maddie, Derek said, hugging us both, and you will be to this little one. I looked at Patricia, her shining, moist eyes. My parents won't know. They won't be in her life. Never. I know, and I'm here to make sure it stays that way, she said firmly. At 32 weeks, a letter arrived. From my mother. The first in 6 months. I opened it with fingers trembling from everything but fear. Jennifer, Cousin Amanda saw you at the store. She said you were pregnant. I can't believe you're keeping this from us. We're going to be grandparents again, and we only found out from strangers. This is inhumane. Whatever you think we've done, we don't deserve this. We have a right to know our grandchildren. We'll be at the hospital. We'll meet our granddaughter. A cold wave of rage washed over me, but it didn't overwhelm me. I didn't answer. Instead, I called the maternity hospital and added their names to a special list, a list of people forbidden access under any circumstances. The nurse on the other end of the line said calmly and clearly, "Don't worry, Mrs. Walsh. If they're not on your guest list, they won't even be told you're here." Elena Rose Walsh was born at 38 weeks at 3:47 a.m. Her first cry wasn't a cry, but a clear, insistent declaration of her presence in this world. Patricia was there, cutting the cord, and her tears fell onto my hand. "She's perfect," she whispered, gazing in fascination at her wrinkled face. "Absolutely perfect." The parents arrived 6 hours later. A security guard called the room. "Mrs. Walsh, there's a married couple here who insist on seeing you. They're not on the list." "Don't let me in," I said, looking at Elena sleeping in the clear envelope. "Got it. We'll figure it out." They didn't give up. For 2 days, they besieged the hospital, calling, coming during visiting hours, sending Tyler, getting the aunts involved. The world became a fortress, and I was its calm, unwavering master. We ignored all attempts to storm it. When we were discharged, there was a huge basket of white roses on the porch of our house. The card read, "Congratulations on the birth of your granddaughter. We look forward to seeing you. With love, Grandma and Grandpa." Derek, without reading it, took the basket, walked through the house, opened the trash can lid, and tossed the flowers in. Roses, ribbons, fake love, all at once. "They can't do this," he said, returning and hugging me tightly with my daughter in my arms. "They can't pretend they have the right. They don't." I pressed myself against his shoulder, inhaling the scent of home, family, true and sacred. I know, and there will never be another. A year later, on Elena's first birthday, a package arrived, a large, elegant box. Inside was a silver children's playset, a toothbrush, and a mirror, heavy, cold, engraved with an engraving that stung my eyes. "To our precious granddaughter Elena, with love from her grandparents." A note, folded into a neat square, was attached. I unfolded it, already knowing it wouldn't contain what I needed, but I read it anyway, and again, and a third time, peering at the lines as if through a fog, trying to discern even a grain of true remorse. "Jennifer, we gave you space, as you asked. It's been over a year now. Isn't that enough for you to calm down and show some common sense? We're sorry if we hurt you. We never meant to. We love you and want to be a part of our grandchildren's lives. Can we start over?" If. The word hung in the air like a poisonous drop. If we caused. Not an apology, an excuse wrapped in the newspaper of false love. And again, me, the one who needs to calm down, the one who lacks reason. I packed that shiny, soulless piece of metal back, carefully, without anger, with an emptiness in my chest that was far worse than any rage. And I enclosed my answer. Mom and Dad, sorry if is not an apology. It's cowardice. True responsibility sounds different. We're sorry we refused to help you when you were bleeding. We were wrong to put a game of golf above your life. We were wrong to take your money order for granted 38 times in a row. Until you can say that out loud, we have nothing to talk about. Don't send gifts to children you don't know. Don't buy yourself an indulgence. Don't ask them to start over when you haven't even realized where you went wrong. Real relationships don't start with gifts. They start with honesty. With your work on the mistakes you never started. Jennifer. I didn't expect an answer, and I didn't get one. 2 years after I stopped being their daughter, I met her at Target. She was pushing a cart full of regular brands, and in that simple detail, the whole story was told. A life shrunk to the size of their real possibilities, not the ones I'd bought. She saw me first. She froze. Jennifer, a voice, shudderingly familiar, sounded like the creak of an old door. I simply nodded. "Mom." Her eyes, greedy and miserable, darted to the children. To Elena, sitting in the cart with a bow in her curls. To Mason and Maddie, squeezing my fingers. "God, they're so big. Elena, she's the spitting image of you." "Yes," I agreed, because it was simply a physiological truth, irrelevant to the point. An awkward pause stretched between us like an abyss. "Can we talk?" she finally squeezed out, and in her eyes was that same old, weary plea. A plea for everything to go back to the way it used to be, for me to be comfortable again. About what? About family, about fixing everything. "There's nothing to fix, Mom. You can't fix something that never happened. We weren't in a family relationship. We had a contract. I pay, you pretend I exist. The contract is broken." "That's cruel," she blurted out, and it was so predictable. Anything that goes against their comfort is cruel. It was cruel to leave me alone that night, cruel to take money 320 times and never ask how I am. "I'm not cruel to you. I'm honest." She trembled. "But I apologized." "You said if. You didn't take responsibility for anything, ever. Do you want to know what I need? I need you to say, I was a terrible mother. I used you. I betrayed you when you were scared and hurt. And I have no forgiveness." That would be a start. Her face contorted as if in physical pain. "You're demanding the impossible." "No, I'm demanding honesty, and that really is impossible for you." Mason tugged at the hem of my dress. "Mommy, let's go. I don't like that auntie." Mom jumped as if she'd been slapped. "I'm not your auntie. I'm your grandmother." "No." My voice was quiet and final, like the click of a lock. "You're a stranger. Their grandmother lives in Florida. She calls every Sunday and knows that Madison hates carrots and Mason is afraid of the vacuum cleaner. You're nothing to them." I turned the cart around. Her voice reached me, muffled, full of a despair that could no longer change anything. "Wait, I'm really sorry. I really am." I turned around one last time. "Prove it. Go see a therapist. Sort yourself out. Understand why your love was so cheap and so precious to me at the same time. And if in a year or two you really change, maybe we'll try meeting for coffee. Under supervision." "A year or two? But that's so long." "You had 6 years of my life given to you in installments. You can wait." I heard nothing else, only Elena's ringing laughter, reaching for the shiny package of cookies. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm 31. I have 3 children who fall asleep convinced they are loved for nothing, just because. I have a husband who carries a greasy card with my ultrasound in his wallet, and a mother-in-law who knows our vaccination schedule by heart. I was someone's daughter, but I gave up that title that night when I realized it wasn't engraved on silver, but on thin, fragile ice that cracked beneath me. I lost the child I was expecting, and I lost parents who existed only in my naive dreams. I lifted the weight of $230,000 and a ton of unpaid guilt from my shoulders. And I found something incomparably greater. Silence, in which only the laughter of my children can be heard. A clear, firm horizon that no one dares cross. And freedom, bitter, hard-won, absolute. If you're reading this and your soul aches with a familiar weariness of being used as a fund, as a shoulder to cry on, as the eternally guilty one, know this: you are allowed to stop funding your own humiliation. You are allowed to choose those who come not empty-handed and with full pockets, but simply come, just in time. And if your enough is met with a barrage of insults and reproaches, don't hesitate. It's not you who are destroying the family. It's you who are finally stopping trying to mend the pieces of what wasn't broken by you. You are not alone. We are here. And we are breathing deeply. We are on our side of the barricades.